All right, here we are on the night after the ninth night of Sphira, and we are starting the Siman 320 Shin Chaf. We're learning about squeezing fruits and vegetables on Shabbos. So, as a brief introduction, I actually want to go over the Alter Rebbe in Siman Shin Hey in the handout that I gave you on number 1. It says Siman Shin Hey 28, the Alter Rebbe. So I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to read it just to give you a intro to the Siman. It is once again Shin Hey Chaf Ches. Adosh Siman Shin Hey Chaf Chet. Adosh u'mi'ovis malachas. Threshing. This is not the Siman we're learning now. This is just a little introduction about Dosh. Alter Rebbe, the first time he mentions any malacha, he gives you a little hakdama, a little introduction. So Adosh u'mi'ovis malachas. Threshing is an av malacha. When do they do threshing in the Mishkan? When?
Say the question.
Eza disha asu b'Mishkan?
For the wheat.
For the wheat, according to those that go by the wheat, for the menachos, or for the different spices to make the dyes of the tapestries. But in any case, whoever removes food or liquid from the place in which it is concealed, for example, a person who milks a cow, he's extracting the milk from the udder. This is a tulda of dosh. Because dosh is removing the grain from the husk. So the actual av is grain from husk, solid from solid. And the tulda of that is mefarik, to remove a liquid from inside of a solid. Now, Alter goes on to explain, I'm not going to read this inside. Alter goes on to explain that if you milk a cow into food and it gets absorbed by that food, then it's not an isser of mefarik because it's becoming oichel. So it's oichel to oichel.
Even if it's half or...
So that's why you can squeeze the lemon opportunity right before you eat it.
Yeah, we're going to get onto lemons also. The same thing, yes, same thing with lemons, correct.
Like I did on Shabbat, it was Yom Tov. It was a cucumber with tomatoes. When you cut it small pieces, and then you have a lot of liquid around that. This is part of the okay.
That's what I'm talking about. But I hear your question. And
if you put oil on top of it, and it's more sauce.
I hear your question. That's not what I was talking about. But it could be the same thing applies. That if you cut a fruit or a vegetable and liquid comes out as you're cutting it, and it's going to become part of the sauce of that food, that's also considered oichel. Because just like we say that when it gets absorbed by the food, it has a din of oichel. The same thing, he doesn't say it here, but we're going to say it in our Siman, that if it is to flavor a food, even though it's not going to get absorbed by a food, it's also considered part of the oichel. That's what you were saying, Yassi. That's why squeezing a lemon into a salad is not a problem, because it's flavoring a food. So halachically, it has the status of a food. Now, what you're saying may not be necessary. In other words, when you're cutting and some of the juice comes out, because that's not your intention, I'm not sure if it has to be just to flavor a food. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you can even drink that. I don't know, because it's not your intention. So maybe it's not also to do. But let's leave that for now. Okay, so the point is that when you take a grain from a husk, those are two different things. The grain is one thing, the husk is something else. If it would be a grain from a grain, that wouldn't be dash, because that's just cutting a piece of cake from a piece of cake, from a whole cake. Because they're two different things, that's why it's dash. So the same thing here, because you're taking liquid out of solid, that's why it's an issue. But if it's halachically considered a solid, out of a solid, so therefore it's not a problem. That's why
unless it's a different type of solid.
Different in terms of one being oichel and one being psoilus, yes. If it's two different oichelim, I don't know about that. I would have to think about that if there is such a thing.
Well, would you be allowed to separate wheat from the bran?
If the bran would be edible,
bran is edible, husk is not.
Right. So we actually had that in Siman Hilchos, where we discussed extracting peas from their edible pods, and we said that it is mutter, although I think in the Siddur the Alter Rebbe recommended not to follow that psak. Who can remember? I need some help here from my able-minded students.
Siddur.
319, I think it was 17. Let me just look it up. I don't know why the Alter in the Siddur was machmir, but definitely the Shulchan Aruch he was mekel. Man.
Oh, we spoke about mustard seeds may not be filtered from their bran, even though the bran is also edible.
Where was that?
Shin Yud Tes Chaf Aleph.
Okay, I'm looking at Shin Yud Tes, where he says, "Yesh limdalem schos kevin sha'oidon lachin v'af hashavin rui la'achila ein ele kamafet oichel me'echel ve'en bezem shum mefak v'shes bar b'simen shen hey." Talking about opening up the peas from a pod, where it sounds like it's only a limud schos. And my understanding is, at least, kind of without remembering the details, but my understanding is that it's because it's not a clear thing that the shavit and aruyin la'achila, like maybe b'shas adchak aruyin la'achila, which is probably the same thing with bran, by the way. Bran is not really food for the average person. You know what I mean? A person who wants to stay regular will eat bran, but normally people don't eat bran, certainly not on its own.
Cereals have you.
Yeah, but that's when you mix it with something else. You know what I'm saying? Bran on its own. 100% bran cereal, you only eat that if you're, you really are constipated and you need some help. You know what I'm saying? It's just not a food. It's not food. It's like eating straw. It's like eating straw, exactly.
Sawdust.
Yeah.
You put in orange juice.
Right, you mix it with something else, you can down it, but it's not really food. Let me just look at Chaf Aleph, though. So when you see that, that's exactly the point. You see that, Yossi? Yossi, you there?
Yep, I see it.
That's the whole point. That in Chaf Aleph he says, because you're throwing out the subin, you're not eating the bran of the mustard. That's why it looks like butter. It's not actually butter because it is edible, but because you're throwing it out, it looks like butter. I.e., if you were going to eat them both, that absolutely would not be butter. See what I'm saying?
So squeezing liquid comes from threshing, does it?
Yes, it's a tulda, but yes.
A bit that's separate to butter.
Yeah, correct. Boirer is when they're mixed, and dash is when it's one thing hidden inside something else.
Yeah.
There may be some overlap, but
you're allowed to. I thought that you're allowed to peel anything b'derech achila. Is that right? Like nuts, etc.
correct.
Except where you've got the outer husk.
Neither one, because that's the way to eat it. It's considered neither dash nor boirer. Correct.
But he says that you're not allowed to take the nuts out of the outer green shell. So you've got the green husk, then you've got the nut, and then you've got the kernel that you eat. You're not allowed to take the nut out of the husk. You can take
because that's not normally done in the process of eating. That's more done in the process of production, much like the grain from the husk that is not done in the process of eating, but rather much earlier in the process.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay, the rest of it is more milking centric, which is what the discussion is in 305. It's a Siman about animals and so on. So we're going to skip that and get back to our intro on Siman 302, which I sent out earlier. Okay, so we're just going to learn from this sheet now. I don't know if we'll get to actually starting the Mechaber inside, but we'll do what we can. So, Min HaTorah, the only liquids that can be extracted from fruits that have a din of liquids is olive oil and grape juice or wine. If you squeeze a grape and you make wine or grape juice, that has a din of a liquid. And that's why it's going to be malacha, correct. And the fact that it has a din of a liquid has relevance, first of all, in terms of the bracha on it. The bracha on the juice of a grape is what?
Hagafen.
That's correct. Now, when they made it Hagefen, they took it out of the category that it should have been in, and they upped it to Hagefen. What category was it in before they decided that this is
Ha'etz?
Ha'etz is correct. No, Ha'etz.
What?
Ha'etz is correct.
Why?
Why? Because
That's what the tree is for.
Exactly, that's what the tree is for. The purpose of planting grapes is not for grapes. It's not for raisins. It's for wine.
And the same would be true for olives.
Product of the tree, of the grapevine. It's considered the ultimate product of the grapevine.
So what about an olive?
Same thing with an olive. If you were to consume olive oil in a way that is normal for consumption, we don't normally drink olive oil. We use it as a tuffle to something else. But if you were to consume olive oil in a way that was normal for consumption, which we learned in Berchas Hanenin, that there was a certain drink that people used to drink, and the main ingredient was the olive oil. Other things were tuffle to it. The bracha is ha'etz, because that's the main purpose of planting the olives.
If you mix it with the food, so it's no bracha, right?
No, it's tuffle. It's tuffle to the food. It's like an apple dipped in
Even
honey.
if you eat it by itself, the halacha is not make bracha.
No, correct, because that's not a normal way of eating. If you just drink olive oil, that's not a normal way of eating.
Or a spoonful of olive oil.
No bracha. I don't think there's any bracha. That's not considered roy lachim.
Every morning.
Why is it not royal chil? Many people do it. It's a very common thing to have a spoonful of olive oil.
Not for eating. They do it for refuah.
To have it in your body.
Okay, that's called refuah.
You
Some
don't make a
kind
bracha
of,
on a foot?
no.
You don't make a bracha on something that's...
Wait, what are you after?
Bracha on food that you eat for refuah, not for things that are not considered food. Olive oil on its own is not considered an edible food. I mean, your body can digest it, but it's not considered a thing that's normal to eat. I don't think there's any bracha.
I mean, medicine is not normal to be eaten. Or medicine, you
You don't
don't make a bracha.
make a bracha medicine. But sometimes we say shahakal on things that are not normal to eat. Sometimes there's no bracha at all. I don't remember what it says about olive oil. If it's no bracha, no, I need a chelik aleph. I don't think it was. I don't think it's any bracha. Sometimes we say shahakal on things that are kind of shas al.
You don't make a bracha.
Oh, is that what it says? Maybe that's what it is. Question? So,
what about juices from other fruits?
oh, thank you very much. Juices from other fruits
Orange juice.
are not considered the main purpose of the fruit, and they are rather considered like a destroyed fruit. You took the fruit, which was a nice fruit, the way Hashem made it, and you kind of destroyed it, and you made it into liquid. So that's like a secondary product, and it gets downgraded from eights to shahak. Now the truth is the truth is that there's a discussion about it. What if the whole purpose of planting it is for the juice, the groves, the orange groves in Florida and Brazil, wherever else they come from? They plant them specifically for the juice. So there are opinions that it's eights, but lemaisa the halacha is that it is shahak. Yes.
What's the? I don't mean to jump. If I am, just tell me the weight. What's the reason that? Where do we learn out that grapes and olives are meant to be squeezed?
Where did we learn it out from? I think we learn it out from that halacha that Chazal say that the bracha on those drinks are ha'etz. I think there's a machlekes rishonim what the reason for that is. It's a Gemara. And if I'm not mistaken, there's two opinions about why that is. Is it because that's why it's planted? Or is it because Chazal decided that these fruits are the only ones that are considered the product? You know what I'm saying? That's why, because of that machlekes is why there is a machlekes about oranges that are planted specifically for orange juice. Those that say that grapes and olives are because that's why it's planted would say it applies to any fruit that's planted for that way. And others say no, that the Torah says that these are the ultimate product of the fruit and everything else is a destroyed fruit, every other juice. So I think that's a svar that the Rishonim say. I don't know if it's a pasuk. I don't know if it's a pasuk, but there is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, which could tie into this, but I don't know for sure. Which is that there are only 7 liquids that are machshir foods to be makabel tumah. Exactly. We just had the Seder of Pesach, and we washed our hands before we ate a vegetable dipped in water, which halachically speaking is supposed to do throughout the year as well. And it's not only water, but it's any one of the 7 liquids, yad shachatam, which is yayin, dvash,
Date honey.
by the way. No, bee honey.
Bee honey.
Bee honey, not date honey. Even though by zavos chol dvash it means date honey, here it means bee honey. Then we have shemen, olive oil, milk, dew, blood, and water. So of those, because we know it's not including actually date honey, so of those only 2 that are from fruits is yayin and shemen. And those are considered liquids. The other fruit juices are not considered liquid. So you could eat, exactly, you could squeeze oranges over a fruit salad and still pick out the fruit salad with your hands and not have to wash your hands. So we see the same principle, that that's not considered a liquid, halachically speaking. So based on this concept, if a person would squeeze a grape or an olive on Shabbos to get the juice out of them, that would be an Isur D'Oraisa, because he's extracting an actual liquid from a solid. Now, the question is, what about other fruits? What is the halacha with other fruits? Here we have a machlokes rishonim that is based on a sugya in the Gemara. So I'm going to tell you first the opinions so that you'll be able to see it in the Gemara a little bit easier. And then we'll look at the Gemara. So here's the breakdown of the 3 types of fruit that exist in the world as far as this halacha is concerned. Number 1, we have grapes and olives. Nothing else is in that category because those are the only ones that are min haTorah. Number 2, we have fruits or vegetables for that matter. We didn't really discuss vegetables in this Siman just because I guess they didn't really squeeze vegetables in those times, but there's no reason that it wouldn't apply to vegetables. So fruits or vegetables that are normally squeezed for their juice, either everywhere or in a particular location, provided that in other locations they would also squeeze it if they would have an abundance of those fruit. Again, let me repeat myself. If it's a fruit that is squeezed everywhere, oranges, for example, everybody makes orange juice, pretty much all
carrot juice,
as far as I've gone. Yeah. And then you might have some fruits and vegetables that
like
are
pomegranates, which are rarer in European countries, but they have often in Mediterranean countries for juice.
Okay. Let's say, for example, so they might not make that particular juice in Europe or wherever else because they don't have so much of it. But if they would have, they would make it because it's a good juice. So that's all in the second category. And then in the third category, you have fruits that are not normally squeezed.
Avocados,
maybe I don't know, feijoas. I don't know what. It's hard to find maybe exotic fruits. I mean, nowadays all the common fruits are squeezed. You find all kinds of fruit juices in the marketplace, but maybe exotic fruits that are just not so common and therefore are not squeezed. Yes.
We take eggplant.
Eggplant, perfect example. Never heard of eggplant juice.
You boil it, and then it will be papa ganoush.
Yeah, but that's not squeezing. Talking about squeezing.
you can become a millionaire, sell it to hipsters.
That's squeezing. That's not called squeezing. That's called maybe it's teuchen. If you take something and you crush it, you know what I'm saying? Make a mush out of it. Maybe it's teuchen.
That's how you get it out of olives.
After you cook eggplant, it's so mushy anyway. It's not even teuchen. That's nothing. Okay. We don't drink potatoes. Okay, so potatoes.
Potatoes, corn.
Yeah, correct.
There's a lot of vegetables, I'm sure. Think of that.
Yeah.
Besides maybe the green ones.
Yeah. So those are the three. Okay, so the main halacha is the opinion of the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh. You can get better than that. I mean, these are the three pillars that the Beis Yosef bases his Shulchan Aruch on. And they all say that the ones that are the second category, which he says here, for example, are Prishim and Rimonim. He translates that as
Rimonim and
Prishim.
what's Prishim?
I think he translates it as mulberries. Let me just see what mulberries, yeah. What's a mulberry? I don't know.
Mulberries are fruits that are grown predominantly in Asia, and you get them in Australia a lot. Silkworms live on them. They're berries that turn a deep purple, a red to deep purple.
Okay.
And in Australia, we have a problem where the birds like to eat them. And then if you have your washing on the line, you end up with purple stains.
Okay. Good to know. All I know is that I read
Made up of lots of little bits, like blackberries or raspberries.
Got it. I just remember a book that I read as a kid about Mulberry Street. That's all I know about mulberries. Anyway, the point is that according to the Rif, the Ram, and the Rush, because those are squeezed by a significant number of people, and they would be squeezed by everybody if possible, so those are an ism and rabbanan to squeeze, because the fact that so many people do it or would do it makes it into a mashka midrabanan. Not midaraisa, midrabanan. That you can't squeeze. However, when it comes to things that nobody squeezes, in significant, maybe a few people do, but no significant number of people, and there's no community per se, there's no country per se that squeezes it. Or even if there is, but they don't squeeze it elsewhere, even though they have an abundance of it. So that is something that you are allowed to squeeze lichatchila. You're allowed to squeeze it,
Yes.
no problem. Because that's not considered a mashka.
I'd be allowed to squeeze in avocado.
Human
Correct.
That's your question. The rabbinic prohibitions here of all the other fruit besides the two.
Yep.
The Gemara spoke about these,
Yes. We're going to learn it now.
saying that it's Xera.
Chazal.
It's Xera from the Gemara.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with the Gemara. The Gemara said we're going to learn it. So this is all the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh. Then you have the Hagoy Smak, who is none other than Rabbeinu Peretz, one of the authors of Tosfos. Right? Only when you say the Hagoy, somebody, it sounds like somebody not so important. The Smak, he was like the main person. He wrote the Sefer. And then on the side, there's the Hagoys. But that's not the way it is, because a Rishon is a Rishon, even if you wrote a Sefer as a Hagah on something else. So the Hagoy Smak was none other than Rabbeinu Peretz, and Rashi and Tosfos pretty much say the same thing, although within Rashi and Tosfos there is some discussion as to whether they mean it in the Maskana or maybe just in the Hava Mina earlier in the Gemara. But Al Kapanim, the simple reading of Rashi and Tosfos also, is that no. Listen carefully. If a person squeezes any fruit or vegetable, the very fact that he squeezes it makes it important. He wants it to be a mashka. The very fact that he squeezes it means he wants it. If he wants it, it becomes important. Can't squeeze it. You want to squeeze it, you can't squeeze it. Just because you want to, you can't. You understand? Because if you want to, you're making it important. The minute it's important, it's considered a mashka, midrabanan. Can't squeeze it. The only question is, the only difference between the second and the third category is, if you actually don't want to squeeze it to drink the liquid, you want to squeeze it because you have too much juice in this fruit. It's too juicy. It's going to make a mess. The way he words it is lamatic as a pre. Maybe the juice is a little bit sour. You want to squeeze it out so it shouldn't be so sour. So he calls it
It's not
lamatic.
beira because you're taking it from the integral part of it rather than a separate thing.
I'm sorry, one more time.
It's not beira because it's part of it, so it's not a separate thing.
As long as it's not a mashka, it's not going to be boyer, correct. As long as it's not a mashka, it's just going to be part of the thing itself.
It would be beira because it's the bit you don't want from the bit you do want.
But if it's the same thing, it's not considered
It's
boyer.
the same thing, yeah. Okay.
So how can they put the olive category for mashke? It's no mashke.
Olive oil is mashka. Absolutely, olive oil is
You don't say
mashka.
any blessing for it.
If you drink it in a normal way, you say a bracha. We don't drink it in a normal way on its own, but if you would,
We don't.
but if you would,
He's taking 1 spoon every day.
that's not a normal way. But if you would mix it into a drink in a way that's a normal way to drink it, then you would say a bracha.
Hayetz or shako?
If you drink it in a normal way, it's okay. So that's the only difference, according to the Hagoy Smak, between the second and third category, and that is if you're doing a lamatic asapri. Again, I repeat myself. If you're doing it lamatic asapri, so if it's a type of fruit that people do squeeze, so then we say you can't even do it lamatic asapri because there's a gzeira. If you do a lamatic asapri, you might do it to get the juice. But if it's a type of fruit that nobody squeezes, and you're doing it lamatic sapri, so therefore it's okay. A, you're not doing it for the juice, and B, nobody uses the juice, so there's no gzeira, and therefore it's permissible.
A quick strange question.
Yes.
If on Shabbos day I've washed and I've made an olive oil drink and I want to drink that or taste it, do I make a bracha ha'etz separately to my hagafen and hamotzi?
Not to your agafen. Agafen covers all drinks, even it's drinks.
Interesting. Okay, so if I am having a meal, I've had no wine, and I'm going to be trying some salad dressing, which is predominantly olive oil, and I've decided that I like it so much I'm going to eat it by itself, I'd make a bracha ha'etz on that.
I don't think so. Why are you saying that olive oil, that the salad dressing is ha'etz? Because the olive oil is the main component?
Yes, the olive oil is 70% of the content, and one of the key flavors.
But it's not really normal to drink salad dressing.
You're not drinking it, you're kind of eating it because it's a thick, gluggy substance.
Still not normal.
Okay. That's because people don't usually make salad dressing as well as I do.
Even so, it's something you would maybe eat the rest of, because you had the whole salad and you like the thing. You might have a few drops of it. You know what I'm saying? But it's not a normal drink. Even a good salad dressing is not a normal drink. You might have a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. But if I had engineered a different kind of olive drink, then I would make the bracha.
Yes.
But
correct.
it would be subordinate to hagafen.
Yes. I had a shaila this yontif, one of the meals where we hadn't washed. We had wine, mitzvah revius of wine. I just realized this cake is upside down. Maybe that's why nobody wants it.
Nice, it's delicious, it's empty.
Here we are. Look at it now. Oh yeah. Okay. So, so anyway, so we had wine, and we didn't have hamotzi, and we were served soup. Soup was the first course. So I assume that, I'm pretty sure the wine covers soup. Why not? I mean, soup is a drink. Just because you eat it with a spoon instead of drinking in a cup, it's still a drink. I wasn't 100% sure, so I said shahakal on something else. But
I asked that question.
and what was the answer?
I forgot. I can look it up on the. I asked it.
Yeah, please,
If the bread,
if you don't mind, if you have it.
if the bread covered the water, actually you should.
I didn't have bread.
But no bread.
Besides the fact that it was Pesach, I didn't have matzah either.
Yeah, actually,
Because what was the answer? 1
You
second.
make a shahakal on watery soup after you've made boy per geffen. No brachas necessary on the soup if it was in front of you when you recited boy per geffen, or if you had the soup in mind when you recited boy per geffen.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, Yossi, what do you say?
no, that was the answer. So that was interesting. So it depends whether you had it in mind.
Well, that's true by any drink. The wine only covers, the bracha one only covers drinks if you either had it in front of you or had it in mind.
But usually you have the intention that it covers all the drinks I'm going to drink. It's a non-specific.
Yeah, that intention, absolutely, yes. If you hadn't thought about drinking other things and you decided later, then you'd have to make another bracha.
So surely that answers the question, because if you're going to say all the things I'm going to, if you don't have to make a bracha on the lemonade you didn't know was going to come out, but you had in mind it was going to cover everything, then your soup you won't make a bracha on either.
Correct.
So the soup is no different to any other liquid.
Correct. As long as you have that in mind, that's correct. So anyway, how do we get onto that?
I was asking about the bracha on olive juice during a meal.
Olive meal. Olive juice during the meal. Yes, that's correct. Olive juice during the meal. Same as other drinks. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the Gemara, Rabbi Isai.
So if you didn't know you were having soup, you do make a bracha on Shabbat. Let's say you're at your house. If it's someone else's house, it wouldn't because you're covered by.
Because I'm planning to eat whatever he serves.
So let's say you're at your house,
and I'm serving it, not my wife. Normally, when I eat whatever my wife serves, she's the balabayit for that purpose.
The guest.
I'm the guest for this purpose. I don't know what I'm, But if I would be serving myself, yeah.
If you didn't know you were getting.
Correct. Okay. So here's the Mishnah on Shabbos 143b. I'm just going to read the English. Those of you that want to look it up should please do so. It's in the beginning of the page that I sent out. One may not squeeze fruits on Shabbos in order to extract liquids from them, and if liquids seep down on their own, it is prohibited to use them on Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda says that the fruits which is designated for eating, the liquid that seeps out from them on Shabbos is permitted. Again, if you have fruits and liquid seeps out of them, according to the Tanna Kama, the first opinion, the Chachamim, the liquid is forbidden. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it depends what the fruits were designated for. If you were planning to eat them, then what comes out of them is permitted, because you're not going to squeeze what you had designated for eating. But if you're planning to squeeze them, then it's forbidden, because you might, if you drink it, you might decide to squeeze more. Now the Gemara says, Rabbah said that Rabbi Yehuda said that Shmuel said as follows. Okay, Rabbah explaining what Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel says about Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Now listen carefully. Rabbi Yehuda would concede to the rabbis with regard to olives and grapes, and the rabbis would concede to Rabbi Yehuda with regard to other fruit. I repeat, Rabbi Yehuda would concede to the rabbis about olives and grapes, and the rabbis concede to Rabbi Yehuda about other fruits. Meaning to say, when it comes to olives and grapes, even if you were planning to eat it, what comes out of it should be aser, because it's such a strict thing. Like we said, that it's an issue d'oraisa to squeeze them, and it's also something that everybody squeezes. So therefore, even if you were planning to eat these particular olives and grapes, nevertheless, if you'd be allowed to drink the liquids, you might come to squeeze more, and it's aser. On the other hand, the Chacham agreed to Rabbi Yehuda by other fruits that it's not aser unless you're planning to drink them. Which begs the next question. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yirmiyah says to Rav Abba, if it's true that they agree with each other, then where do they disagree? Right? What's going on? The Mishnah says like this. You're saying that Rabbi Yehuda agrees to the Chachamim by olives and grapes, and the Chachamim agree to him by everything else. So what's left? Nachum Yitzchak explains, it stands to reason they disagree with regard to mulberries and pomegranates, which have an intermediate status between olives and grapes, which are not always considered destined for juicing, and other fruits which are not. Okay, so here's the first time we're coming up with this three categories.
Is this the only one that would be in? Why would they only mention these two?
Because these were ones that would normally be squeezed in those days. It doesn't seem like fruit juice was a big thing in those days.
Like there, maybe.
Yeah, it's Israel above all. I don't know. Fruit juice doesn't seem to be was not a big thing. Remembering that they didn't have refrigeration, they didn't have bottling methods that we have today where you can keep things for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So
right, it would probably last longer to stay as a fruit.
Probably, or maybe a dried fruit, but unless you made some kind of beer or alcohol out of it, probably wouldn't last long. So, but in any case, I don't know. I mean, that's just a guess. Whatever reason, it wasn't a common thing. So now we have these three categories. He doesn't yet talk about actually squeezing it. Up to this point, he's talking about if the liquid comes out on its own. Again, grapes and olives, if it comes out on its own, for sure aser. Other fruit, if it comes out on its own, only aser if you were planning to squeeze it, right? What?
If you plan to squeeze it.
That's a kasha. Why should it be aser if you're planning to squeeze it? I'm just realizing. Shar Paris, if you're planning to squeeze it, according to the Rif, the Ram, and the Rosh, you're allowed to squeeze it. So why should it be us if you're planning to squeeze it?
No, not squeeze it.
Shar Paris. What Shar Paris?
Shar Paris, except for the olives and the grapes?
No, except for the mulberries and the pomegranate. Things that are never squeezed.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to squeeze it if what you want is the juice.
Talking about the Rif, Ram, and the Rosh. I'm sorry, what?
But you're not allowed to squeeze it if what you want is the juice.
No, that's the Hagoy Smak. That's the second opinion. That's not the Rif of the Ram and the Rosh, which is the first and main opinion.
What, l'chadchila, you're allowed to squeeze it into a cup and drink it?
That's correct. Eggplants and star fruit and avocados And anything else that nobody
Orange.
squeezes.
Oranges.
Not oranges. Everybody
Orange you're
squeezes
allowed.
oranges. Everybody squeezes oranges. That you cannot do.
Well, I don't understand. You said pomegranates and berries.
Because those are squeezed by a significant number of the population.
Yeah.
But things that are not squeezed, you're allowed to squeeze.
So I don't understand. What's your question?
My question is, why does it say that the Chachamim agree to Rabbi Yehuda by Shar Peres? What does it mean they agree to Rabbi Yehuda? They agree that it's only also if it's made for squeezing. So what if it's made for squeezing? You're allowed to squeeze. Why should it be also if it's made for squeezing?
Oranges.
See what I'm saying?
Maybe they talk about.
It's a klotz kasha.
Yeah, because if you're allowed to do it, why they put it here? If they plan to do it, you're allowed to do it. Why not?
Exactly. Just give me a minute. Let me cheat and look at the Masifta Gemara and see what it says there. Ooh, can't open the
I
phone.
know. I what I'm getting from this is that mulberries and pomegranates are intermediate between things that can be squeezed and things that are absolutely squeezed.
Absolutely is correct.
So you have four categories, not three. You have things.
No.
You have. What I'm understanding from what you said is you have four categories. One, no.
No, go ahead. I'll listen. I'll hear you out. But there's only three. But go ahead.
Okay, so you have olives and grapes. You then have pomegranates and berries. You then have other fruits, and then things you'd never squeeze.
No, other fruits are things that nobody squeezes. That's it. There's nothing else besides other fruits. Pomegranates and mulberries are things that some people squeeze. Other fruits are fruits that no significant amount of people squeeze. That's it. Nothing else.
So maybe it's saying, oh. But then what does it mean that the Chachamim go like Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda goes like the Chachamim? I thought that means that.
This is a starke kasha on those shitas.
I'm sure it's a good question to asked.
Exactly, and if it's not, then we're obviously learning something wrong in the try here. For a second, I'm just looking in the back.
maybe one's talking midrabanan, the other one's talking midraisa?
No, they hold that even midrabanan there's no iser.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, squeeze watermelon.
Watermelon, no, that's something that people do squeeze. Anything that some people squeeze or a significant amount of people squeeze, you can't squeeze.
It's very common in India to squeeze watermelon. It's called sherbet.
Okay.
How about tomatoes?
Tomatoes are a big thing.
Tomato juice is the key ingredient in Bloody Marys. Nowadays, hipsters will squeeze anything. Get kale juice.
Okay, the short answer is that I don't know how to fit into the Gemara, but basically the Chazon Ish says that it means, according to those Rishonim, it actually means that there is no machlokes by Shabbos because you're allowed to even squeeze it in the first place. There's no machlokes. No machlokes. Not that there's no machlokes that it depends on whether it's lachila or l'shsia, but there's no machlokes. Moedim, basically they're moedah. There's no machlokes. What? And the Gemara doesn't spell out what it means. There's no machlokes. Normally you would think it means no machlokes. They agree with what he says about tusa mirvainim, that it depends lachila or l'shsia. But here it means moedim, that there's no machlokes. Why is there no machlokes? Because you're allowed to even squeeze it, so there's no machlokes. It's not so simple in the Gemara, but that's the way they learn the pshat. Okay, so we continue and we say, it was taught on a brisa. One may squeeze plums and quinces and crab apples. Plums, you all know what they are. Excuse me, quinces are chabushim in Ivrit. No, there's something called chabushim.
Yes, chabushim. Yes.
That's like an apple, but you have to cook it.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Hard, yeah. And crab apples. However, one may not squeeze pomegranates because they're typically squeezed for the juice, as people from the house of Menashe bar Menachem would squeeze pomegranates during the week. Nachman said the halacha is in accordance with the practice of the people from the house of Menashe bar Menachem. What does it mean with the practice of the people? The practice of the people was to squeeze it during the week. There weren't Amoraim who had an opinion. What it means is, Koltuv, what it means is that because they would squeeze it during the week, so they were machshevit as a mashke, and the halacha follows what they would do, and therefore it is considered to be a mashke, and you're not allowed to squeeze it, because it's like you're squeezing something that is minarabbanan considered a mashke. Okay, now the Gemara has two ways of explaining why it's asar minarabbanan to squeeze pomegranates and mulberries. The reason for Nachman's statement is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Chizda, is what the Gemara says first. As Rav Chizda said, in the case of beets that one squeezed and then placed the juice in the mikveh, the juice invalidates the mikveh if it causes a change of appearance. Rav Chizda elaborated, aren't beets typically not designated for squeezing? Rather, what have you to say? Since he ascribed its significance, it is considered a liquid. Here too, with regard to pomegranates, since he ascribed its significance, it is considered a liquid. Listen carefully. we know that a mikveh has to be made of 40 saw of rainwater. However, if invalid liquids are placed in it, it can, once it reaches 40 saw, you can add whatever you want. I mean, the truth is you can't add so much that it changes the color. But in general, you can add whatever you want generally, and it doesn't become possible. However, before it reaches 40 saw, the key volume, you cannot add any liquid that would disqualify a mikveh. And if you add 3 lug, right, that's the measurement, then the mikveh is disqualified. All of the water there is disqualified. You have to start all over again. Now, beet juice, it's not even beet juice, I'm not talking about cooked beets and the juice of what you cooked the beets in. I'm talking about actual squeezed beets to make juice out of it.
You mean the leaves?
No. Crushed beets.
Okay.
You crush the beets in one of those magic mixers, whatever they're called. You know what I'm saying, yeah?
Bullet.
One of those bullet things. You crush the beets. Talking about actual crushed beets. If you mix it into a mikveh and it changes the appearance, it is a pasal mikveh. Now the question is, since that should not be considered a liquid, halachically that's not a liquid like we said before. Why should that disqualify a mikveh if it's not a liquid? Rav Chisda says, because you squeezed it, you gave it the significance of a liquid. Your wanting it to be a liquid makes it a liquid. And therefore, it is able to disqualify a mikveh, as if it were mayim shuvin, regular drawn water. That's the first opinion.
But Rabbi, in the mikvah, you're allowed to put some amount of regular mayim shuvin, right?
Once you have 40 saw, yes, you can add any amount.
So why this will cancel it?
Oh, you mean, is this less than 40 saw, more than 40 saw?
Yeah.
Give me a second about that. I'm not actually sure. In one moment.
Surely the answer only makes sense if it's less than 40 saw, because we're trying to show that it's a liquid.
Yeah, I think it's less, but I just want to make sure. So Rashi says it's not shlosh logan dafka. A second. Selection says when it's so. Okay, so yeah, what it seems is actually that we're talking about a mikveh that is 40 saw. And even if it's a mikveh that's 40 saw, if it has a shinui mara, if it changes its color, and the change of that color comes from a mashka, from a liquid, then it can disqualify the mikveh.
So if I use chalk, then that doesn't count.
Exactly. So or mud, or just if it goes green from slime and
algae.
Yes. One woman give her a cup of wine and she drop it in the mikveh. She can ruin the mikveh.
If it's enough to make the mikveh look like wine. If the mikveh looks like wine,
no, yeah,
then it's a problem. Otherwise, not a problem.
So this is really stronger for this small amount to change the mikvah.
It doesn't say how much the amount is. It doesn't say how much.
Any drop is.
It doesn't say how much. I'm talking about if it's enough to change the color.
So if it didn't change the color of this also, it doesn't.
No. Didn't change the color, it's no problem. Okay, so, but again, it has to be a mashka. The fact that it changes the color, if it wouldn't be a mashka, it wouldn't be a problem. The fact that it's a mashka is a problem. Why is it a mashka? Beet juice is not a mashka. Rav Chisda says because he squeezed it, he made it into a mashka. In his mind, he made it into a mashka. So therefore, it's able to paisel the mikvah. However, Rav Papa says that no. Rav Papa gives a different pshat in the reason why beet juice disqualifies a mikvah. Rav Papa says that any item that is not kosher to make a mikveh out of it, even if it doesn't have the din of mashka, if it's not a kosher liquid for creating a mikveh, it can disqualify a mikveh with shinamar. When we say that a shinamar doesn't pass a mikveh, we're talking about something like algae, which you can't even, it's not a liquid b'chlal. You know what I'm saying? You can't talk about making a mikveh with algae. It's nothing. You know what I'm saying? Chalk is nothing. It's not in that category of making a mikveh. But something that is not kosher for making a mikveh, even if it's not halachically liquid, nevertheless it is able to disqualify a mikveh with shinoi mara. Okay? So that is our Papa's answer. So now, my friends, we have an understanding of the basis of the two opinions that we mentioned before. The the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh on the one hand, and Rashi, Tosfos, and the Hagoy Smak on the other hand. So Rashi, Tosfos, and the Hagoy Smak, they say, well, if the base menashia, the reason the pomegranates are important and are liquid is because this base menashia, this significant number of people used to do it. And even if everybody else doesn't do it, that's not because they don't have enough. If they would have enough, they would do it too. That's why it's important. But something that nobody does, even if you want to do it, is not important. The Gemara says that according to Rav Chisda, beet juice is important because the person who squeezed it made it important, which would mean that even beets, that is not a normal thing in those days at least, to make juice out of, if you want it to be juice, it becomes juice. Yes, but that's not the maskana, that's not the final answer of the Gemara. The final answer is like Rav Papa. Rav Papa says that even if something is not a halachic liquid, it can disqualify a mikveh with shinoi mara, as long as it's not a kosher item to make a mikveh out of. And therefore, there's no proof to say that just because you want something to become a liquid, it's a liquid. And therefore, we stay with what the Gemara understood earlier. It's only something that a significant number of people do into a liquid. That's when it's a problem. Otherwise, not a problem. That's all those Rishonim. However, the other Rishonim, Hagoy Smak, Rashi, and Tosfos, they go like Rav Chisda. They say what makes the beet juice disqualify mikveh? Because the person who squeezed it wanted it to be a liquid. The same thing with the base menashe. What makes that a liquid? Because they want it to be a liquid. It has nothing to do with the number of people that do it. Even if there's only one person in the world that does it, when he does it, he wants it. That makes it important. That's a liquid. That is asam d'Rabbanan. The only difference, according to this answer, between base menashe, like the pomegranate base menashe did, and other things that nobody does, is if you're not doing it as a liquid, you're doing it because you just want to sweeten the fruit, like we said before, it's too juicy or whatever. So something that a lot of people squeeze, there's an isser d'Rabbanan that you might squeeze it on purpose, even though you're not, but maybe you'll decide that you want to drink it. But something nobody drinks, and you're not doing it to drink either, is okay. That's the bottom line of this discussion, my friends.
So to summarize, olives and grapes you can never do. Potatoes you can always do for whatever reason, and oranges and the like you can do as long as it is not for the juice.
No, my friend. Sorry.
So that's what I thought you just said.
Taking some of each of the opinions, but neither of the opinions in their entirety. Let me repeat it. First, according to the lenient opinion, and then according to the strict opinion. The lenient opinion, which is the main halacha, Rif, Rambam, and Rosh say, grapes and olives you can never do. Oranges you can also never do, and or the like, or anything that's normally squeezed. Something that is not squeezed by any number, by any significant number of the population, you can do even in the first place.
So lemons you could never do.
Lemons is actually a separate machlekes because most people don't drink lemon juice on its own. It's used only to flavor either foods or other or drinks. You know what I'm saying? So that's a separate machlekes. Talk about something that you actually drink the juice, like orange juice. Orange juice you cannot do.
So lemon and lime you would be able to because people do it not for the juice.
I'm not saying you're able to. I'm saying there is reason to say that. In fact, we follow the strict opinion that says that you cannot, but it's not so simple. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to use that as an example because, in fact, it's a subject of a separate dispute.
Wow, now I'm really confused because I've always thought you can use lemons directly onto tuna or salad or something.
I'm not talking about to flavor food. To flavor food, you can even do grapes and olives, my friend.
Really?
Yes, because when you flavor the food, what comes out of the fruit is not considered a liquid, it's considered a solid.
So we're only talking about now if you want the juice. Or if you want to extract the juice from the fruit.
Now you're putting words in my mouth. Well, only now, if you are not doing it into a salad or to flavor a salad. Let's put it that way.
So if you're doing it either to get the juice out.
One second. We are discussing the two things that we did discuss is if you're doing it for the juice or you're doing it to
remove the juice.
Remove the juice.
Yeah.
But in that case, you're not actually doing it to a salad. So you are collecting it in a cup. You know what I'm saying? So there might be reason to forbid it for that reason. You know what I'm saying? But if it's into a salad or to flavor a salad, then it's a separate heter entirely.
And is going down a drain the same as that? Directly over a drain?
That's an interesting question. Are you allowed to squeeze out? So again, if you're talking about things that are never squeezed, you could do it even if it's not into a drain, or into all opinions, because there's no decree because you would never squeeze it. If you're talking about grapes and olives, it's certainly aser. Because even though it's not being collected, but you're still squeezing it, you know what I'm saying? And it's aser, it's not xera, you are creating a liquid. You know what I'm saying? Other things which are xera you could discuss. But here, even though it's going down a drain, you did create a liquid. On the other hand, when you're squeezing oranges into the drain, is there a decree that you might do it for drinking when it's getting destroyed right away? Maybe not.
Isn't that what happens when you do it onto a solid? We're saying that it never really becomes a liquid.
Okay, that's because it becomes a solid. But if it's going down the drain, it's not becoming a solid. It's getting lost, but it's not becoming a solid either. You see what I'm saying?
So what you're saying is that the halacha of squeezing it as a liquid still exists, but the question might be, does the gzera apply?
Exactly. That's correct. I don't know. I have not come across that. Not yet, at least. Okay, my friends. So one second. I gave you a breakdown of the lenient opinion. Let me just give you a breakdown of the strict opinion. And that is, again, grapes and olives for sure forbidden. Oranges and other fruits that are normally squeezed by a significant number of the population, forbidden to squeeze, whether for the juice or to sweeten the fruit. Whereas things that are not normally squeezed by any significant number of people, you cannot squeeze for the juice, but you can squeeze to sweeten the fruit. That's the breakdown. All right? Ready to go on?
I thought we said things like potatoes you can squeeze even for the juice that aren't done by a significant number.
That's according to the lenient opinion.
Okay.
Strict opinion, there is nothing in the world that you can squeeze for the juice. The minute that you want to squeeze for the juice, it becomes important. So there's no way around it. You know what I'm saying? If you want it, you can't have it. The fact that you want it means that you can't have it.
Okay.
Okay. With no further ado, we're going to start with the Mechaber, Siman Shin Chaf. Zeisim va'anovin, olives and grapes, also l'sechton, it is forbidden to squeeze them. V'ayin le'el siman reshon beis if hey, look previously in siman 252 if hey, where it says, just for your information, that if it was already crushed before Shabbos, you can crush it more because whatever is in it is considered already out of it. All right?
It's like a manchad ben dosa?
No. If something is thoroughly crushed before Shabbos, continuing to crush it's like ein bishul achar bishul. Once something is cooked, you can't cook. Once something is crushed, you can't crush it again. So that's what it says there. If the liquids came out on their own, it is asur. This is like the Mishnah said.
Can I suck the liquid out?
I'm sorry?
But I can suck the liquid out?
That's Rabbi Eliezer Mimitz, that's a machlokes rishonim, and that's coming up. If you can suck it out in your mouth, that's an actual machlokes rishonim, and we're going to see about that. If it comes out on its own, it's forbidden. Even if you're only planning to eat it. Again, this is what we said. Rabbi Yehuda agrees to the Chacham that zeisim and anavim, even if you're planning to eat it, because that juice is considered significant, it is forbidden, even if you were planning to eat it. Tusim v'remoinim, mulberries and pomegranates. Also, the sechton, it's forbidden to squeeze them. Now, so far as according to every opinion. Now, if it comes out on its own, if you're planning to eat it, it's permissible. Planning to drink it, it's forbidden. This is passing like Rabbi Yehuda, by the way. We said the machlokes of Yehuda and the Chachamim is exactly about this case, the middle case. The middle case, the Chachamim say it's always asur. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. If you're planning to eat it, mutter. If you're planning to drink it, asur. The psak is like Rabbi Yehuda. The shar kol peiros, the rest of all the peiros, here's where he's going to pass in clearly, like the Rif and the Rambam and the Rosh. Mutter l'soichtan. You are allowed to squeeze them. That's it. Mutter l'soichtan doesn't even mention the other opinion. And here's the Rama. Rama adds, if it's a place that they squeeze any fruit to drink, whether for thirst or for pleasure, it has the din of mulberries and pomegranates. Now, he's not arguing on the Mechaber. Notice he doesn't say yesh imrin. Some say, because this is not a machlokes. This is simply stating the more expanding on what the Mechaber said. He's just explaining that Tusim and Ramanim are examples. They're not exceptions. They're examples of things that are normally squeezed. If it's only squeezed for a medicine, for medicinal purpose, that's not important, because that's not considered that's like an exception, medicine, but it's not a normal thing. According to the first opinion, yes. Something that's normally squeezed for medicine only is not forbidden to squeeze. All of this is only for squeezing. Avol, y'all see this is answering a question. If You're allowed to even squeeze grapes with your mouth, even grapes, which are an Issa d'Oraisa to squeeze, that in your mouth, you're allowed to squeeze. How much more so with other things besides grapes? Some people forbid squeezing with your mouth grapes and similar things. So we're going to see the reason for that machlokes later. Okay, let's get to the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe expands on it at much greater length. So I want to cover this today so that we can move on to further ground tomorrow. Shin Chaf Aleph in the Alter Rebbe. Yes, you all ready? I'm the one that's not ready here. Just getting it on my page. Okay, Siman Shin Chav Din Eschita B'Shabbos Chav Chasifim. The laws governing squeezing out liquids on Shabbos. Hasoichet Zeisim Lo Hitz Mehem Shemen Oyanov Lo Hitz Mehem Yayin Chayev. Neisha Mafarik Hamashkem Me'apri. Yikvanis Barb Siman Shin Hey Shkol Mafarik Oichol Hamashkem Mokum Shniskasa B'Ezeh Tuldas Adosh. One who squeezes olives to extract their oil or grapes to extract their juice is liable because he's extracting the liquid from the fruit. In section 305, it was explained that anyone who extracts food or liquid from the place where it is enclosed performs a derivative of the forbidden labor of threshing. Now, okay. Nevertheless, okay, that's coming up. Let's read the Hebrew first. And he points out in note 1 that these activities are also forbidden on a festival. Okay? On Yontif, everything we're learning in this Siman applies to Yontif too. Why? Because on Yontif, even though you're allowed to do things for Oichel Nefesh, you're only allowed to do things that you couldn't do before Yontif without affecting the taste. You could squeeze before Yontif. As freshly squeezed, that's not considered a big difference. Understand? So you cannot squeeze, you cannot make orange juice on Yontif. Excuse me, nevertheless, according to scriptural law, it is permitted to squeeze any other fruits to extract their juice. Because all fruit juices, with the exception of olive and grape products, are not classified as liquids, but rather as food. Hence, squeezing out the juices is considered to be separating one fruit from another, and the prohibition against extraction does not apply as explained in that source. I'm going to read note 2 because it's important. There are 2 different ways of explaining the Alter Rebbe's ruling here. A, other fruits are primarily planted to be eaten as food rather than to be used to produce juice. Grapes and olives, by contrast, are planted primarily for the liquids. See the Kuntrasachim. B, of the 7 substances deemed as liquids according to scriptural law, the only substances produced from fruits in that category are wine and olive oil. According to the first view, it could be postulated that if other fruits and vegetables are grown primarily to produce juice, their juice would be considered as liquids according to scriptural law. See Shabbos Ka'alacha, which discusses this issue at length, noting that many later authorities have questioned the status of citrus fruits. By and large, they are grown to produce juice. Other authorities, however, consider citrus fruits the same as other fruits and do not deem their juices as liquids according to scriptural law. See also subsection 10 and notes. You understand? This is like I mentioned before, when it comes to the bracha, there's a machlokes that perhaps orange juice should be ha'itz because that's the main reason they plant it. According to those poskim, they want to say that maybe nowadays something that's planted specifically for its juice might be an issa mid'oraisa if we go by the reason it's planted. On the other hand, if we go by what the Torah considers liquid, only olive oil and grape juice or wine, then there's nothing else. Okay, let's continue.
I don't see how we can say that nowadays, though, because surely in the times of the Gemara, people and Mishnah, people had planted groves of pomegranates specifically for the purpose of juicing. There must have been such people, and we don't talk about that.
Sorry, certainly there were people that were planting what?
There must have been people who planted pomegranates for the purpose of juicing.
I don't know if there were.
Really?
I don't know. You're saying that, but I don't know if it's true. Even the house of Menashe, who would do it, do they plant it specifically for that, or do they have some for one and some for the other, and not necessarily specifically planted for that? I don't know.
Okay.
In the absence of a proof, I don't. It's it's not a question until there's a proof to that.
So oranges for public, which
We say shahakal, but if you would say ha'etz b'di'evet, you're yotze, because some say that it is ha'etz. It's machlokes. Okay. Divrei Seifrim also lists the filu tusam v'remoinim. Nei shemixes b'nei adam sheyesh lam harbe tusam v'remoinim heim sechten oisun l'shem mashke kezesim v'anavim. Ve'ilu hayu kein harbe l'shar b'nei adam hayu gam kein regila l'sechten l'shem mashke. Lefikach kol mi shesechten l'shem mashke me'eles machshavti l'shem mashke alem divrei seifrim v'neim bot l'dayta esel koladam. According to rabbinic law, it is forbidden to squeeze other fruit, even berries, and pomegranates. Since some people who have an abundance of berries and pomegranates squeeze them for the juice, and were other people to also have an abundance of these fruits, they too would customarily squeeze them for their juice. When everyone squeezes them for the sake of the juice, his intent causes them to be deemed as liquids according to rabbinic law. We do not say that his intent to use them for juice is insignificant in light of the attitude of people at large. As he explains in note 4, since they too might squeeze these fruits for juice, were they to have an abundance of them. Also, similarly, species of pears called barren that are squeezed for their juice in certain places are forbidden to be squeezed on Shabbos. The rationale is that it is possible that, were the inhabitants of the world at large to possess an abundance of such pears as do those places, they would also squeeze the pears for the sake of their juice. Same applies to all similar fruit. Avol shar peres, shein derech olam l'sechtan, l'shem mashke, dahainu lishis memeim b'mach masama yertainug, af sheish l'maharba mehem v'afilu regil l'sechtan l'refuah, ein olam shein mashke b'shvil kach, afilu medir v'seifim, mutter l'sechtan b'shav neshu, kamaf l'echom b'echom, al-birzah sechtan l'miskal l'shem mashke, batla daitil eitzel kol adam. However, the juices of other fruits that are not commonly squeezed by people at large for use as a liquid, i.e. to drink in order to quench one's thirst or for the sake of pleasure, even when they possess an abundance of these fruits, and even if they are commonly squeezed for their juices for medicinal purposes, are not categorized as liquids even according to rabbinic law. Hence, it is permissible to squeeze these fruits in Shabbos because one is considered to be separating fruit from fruit. Even if the person squeezing them does so for the sake of the juice, his intent is insignificant in the light of the attitude of people at large. The mokum should know what lischat is the pre l'shem mashka. I didn't show to disagree with mine. Vasan sech the b'sham plus the mokum l'shem mashka shel batla das zeh hasechet. Came in shekol anshi mokum me oisim came b'chol. Al shram came with mutl sech the her when regil sech l'shem mashka afshish no harbe men. Listen very carefully. This is the first chiddush that we're reading the Alter Rebbe. Until now, everything the Alter Rebbe said has basically been said already. The Alter Rebbe explains it, expands it. It's already been said. This is a chiddush. First time we're hearing it. Listen carefully. If there is a fruit that is squeezed in a particular place but nowhere else, and that fruit is found in abundance in the other places, but they don't make juice out of it. So then there's a difference as to where you are. If you're in the place where they squeeze it, we don't say batla daitek etzel kalanam. We can't say that your opinion is nullified because in this place everybody squeezes it, so you can't squeeze it. But if you're you cannot because it's considered significant in this place. Whereas if you're in another place, we say, well, most of the world doesn't squeeze it, and therefore we're not going to say that we should care about that particular locale. No, we go by the majority of the world; they don't squeeze it, and therefore even if you do squeeze it, it's not a mashka, and it's permissible. Yes.
If you guessed over there, you don't know. You.
So they'll correct you. They'll correct you. But once they correct you, you have to listen.
Oh.
And it's the same thing, by the way, in regards to carrying on Shabbos. So a person who carries on their head on Shabbos is considered to be carrying kala achar yad. It's not a normal way to carry. What about the fact that in Africa, there's many people who carry on their heads? You see all the pictures. That's only in Africa. If you're in Africa and you carry in that way, Chas v'shalom on Shabbos, that's an Issur D'Oraisa. There it's normal. But that doesn't make it normal elsewhere. See what I'm saying? Same thing here. Note 5. See Shabbos Kalacha, which maintains that at present many other fruits, e.g. apples, peaches, mangoes, etc., are squeezed commercially for their juices, and it is difficult to say that people at large do not consider the possibility of producing juice from them. Therefore, it is questionable whether the proponents of the leniency mentioned previously would advance this theory in the present age. Indeed, the same logic can also be applied to many vegetable juices, for tomato juice, carrot juice, beet juice, and the like are all produced commercially and commonly drunk. So this is very significant, this note. It's pointing out that most fruits and vegetables are nowadays squeezed commercially and in many places, and therefore it would seem that you cannot squeeze them according to this opinion. But here comes the strict opinion. There are, however, other authorities who maintain that it is forbidden to squeeze all types of fruits for their juice according to rabbinic law, since the person squeezing them has the intent of drinking the juice to quench his thirst or for the sake of pleasure or even for medicinal purposes. They are considered as beverages according to rabbinic law. That's another chiddush we didn't see until now. According to this opinion, the strict opinion, even if you're only squeezing it for medicine, but the fact is you want the juice, that's already considered juice. The only exception is going to be if you want to squeeze it to get rid of the juice. It's too much juice. But if you want the juice, even just for medicine, it's juice. They are considered as members of the rabbinic law. We do not say that his intent is significant in light of the attitude of people at large. If, however, his intent was to dip food into the juice, it is permitted to squeeze the fruit for this purpose, as will be explained. Okay, here's a chiddush, my friends. Another chiddush in Alter Rebbe. If you're squeezing a fruit that is not normally squeezed in the world, and you don't want to drink it, you want to use it for your dip. You're making a dressing, you're making a salad dressing, but you're not doing it straight into the food. You're making a dressing beforehand. That's allowed. Why?
Like the lemon.
Well, the lemon is a problem because nowadays people drink lemon juice. But something else that people don't drink as a juice, you can squeeze into a cup to use as a salad dressing later. Why? Because you're not giving it the importance of a liquid, because you're not going to drink it. It's a liquid now, but it's not a liquid in your mind. Its whole purpose is for flavoring something else. Okay, that's a important chiddush. So even the strict opinions allow you to squeeze it to mix into something later. חוץ מתשיסים רבנו חייס בהן מהפה שמקצו בני אדם שיש להם הרבה שכל נויתם שם משקה סייסם הנאום ואילו היה כן הרבה לשם בני אדם היו גילם גם כן לשכל לשם משקה שבהם עשו לשחד אפילו כדי למשקה בלבד זה שם ישחד גם כן לשכל משקה כמו שאויסן בני אדם שיש להם הרבה מהם. If, however, one squeezes the fruit only to sweeten the fruit itself and not for the sake of the juice, it is permitted to do so, and one may even drink the juice that was squeezed. Again, another chiddush. According to the strict opinion, you're allowed to squeeze it to get rid of the excess juice, even if you're also going to drink that juice. But that's not your main intent. So that you're not giving it chashivos, you're not creating an important thing. You're going to drink it because why should I throw it out? But that's not your main purpose, that's allowed. Since he did not squeeze in order to drink the juice.
Like if you left a little bit and then you want to squeeze it for drink?
No, if you're squeezing it to drink, it's a problem. According to this opinion. It's if you're squeezing it just to get rid of it because it's too juicy, then afterwards you're also going to drink it, but that's not your main purpose.
Okay.
That's what we're saying.
Okay.
This applies to all fruits with the exception of berries, pomegranates, and the like, i.e., fruits that some people possess in abundance and squeeze them for liquids like olives and grapes, and if other people also possess an abundance of these fruits, they too would squeeze them for the sake of their juice. Such fruits are forbidden to be squeezed, even if the person's intent is only to sweeten them. There's a decree lest one squeeze the fruits for the sake of their juice, as is the usual practice of those who possess an abundance of these fruits. Also, he points out in note 7, obviously also excluded are grapes and olives for squeezing is forbidden according to scriptural law. It is customary to follow this stringency in many places. However, fundamentally, halacha follows the first opinion. Nevertheless, in a place where the stringent view is followed, one should not deviate from the local practice. Okay, so Lamaisa, the halacha that he says is that it is allowed, according to the main halacha. Some places are strict. If you're in a place that has this strictness, you should follow the strictness. Nowadays, I don't know if we're in a place that follows the strictness or not, because it's so hard to find a fruit or vegetable that falls into this third category. And if you do find such a thing, who even thinks to squeeze it? Who squeezes potatoes? Who squeezes eggplant? You know what I'm saying? These things are not done. So it's hard to know what the minhag is. So it would seem, in absence of a particular minhag, it would seem that we could go back to the main halacha, which is that you're allowed to squeeze anything that is not squeezed by a significant number of people. And that's what it is. All right, my friends, we have 3 minutes to go, but base is a little bit long. So we are going to have to call it a night. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Good night.
My pleasure. Good night to you.
Enjoy night 10, is it?
I didn't have night yet. I'm sorry?
Enjoy night 10.
Yes. Thank you. I haven't counted yet because I was hoping for a minion, but yes, thank you.
So we have to do Mari first?
Tadir v'she'eno tadir, tadir kodem. עוד לא התפללת? אז זה קשה.
נתפלל בבית.
אז תספר אחר כך, אבל אל תשכח.
כן, זה שום בעיה.
Okay, all the best.
Bye.